The federal government is coming for your donuts. Yes, the FDA announced that very soon trans fats are going to be banned across the entirety of America. The FDA's final ruling gives the food industry until June 2018 to stop using partially hydrogenated oils and shift to only very limited uses that are proven to be safe, which is a term that we're going to return to. The decision does not apply to naturally occurring trans fats found in small amounts in some dairy and meat products, but is aimed at the artificial or industrial trans fat added to processed foods. The FDA's decision rescinds the generally recognized as safe or GRAS status for partially hydrogenated oils. The status does not require FDA's approval, but is supposed to be grounded in scientific consensus. That scientific consensus has been present for literally decades as they've understood or believe that they understand the effects that these trans fats have on your body. They have been used regardless of those health risks because of mouthfeel and the ability to preserve artificial colors, et cetera, et cetera. They last longer on shelves, all that stuff. It doesn't matter if it's causing all sorts of health problems for Americans. But Obama, or the FDA of Obama, is doing the right move in this case, it seems. Yeah. Or do you agree? Because I think that we've somewhat disagreed on food policy in the past.
Yes. Okay, that's a great question because it is nuanced. So I don't necessarily agree with the actions of Mike Bloomberg in New York City when he tried to limit the size of the sodas, et cetera. But Mike Bloomberg also did crack down on trans fats, and that's part of what has led to this movement. And this I love. Okay. So now, is that being unprincipled? No, that's using human judgment. So sometimes regulation makes sense, sometimes it's over-regulation, sometimes it's under-regulation, right? So in the case of trans fats, what we realized is only a marginal benefit. So for example, for the consumer, it's what you mouth taste. It's
mouthfeel. It's like
mouthfeel, yeah.
Not bad.
Which is a hilarious thing to call something, okay? So, and you're right, mouthfeel is a little different than taste, okay? So
still weird.
Marginal effect for the consumer. But really, it's a bigger effect on the people making the food because if it lasts on the shelf longer, then they have less that they throw away, less money that they lose, right? Yeah. On leftovers. So they care about it. That's why they've been putting the trans fats in there, right? Not just so that it tastes better or that it is in any way better to the consumer. Okay. So on the other hand, we know that it has significant risks. The science has shown that over and over again, and it's a big contributor to high cholesterol, especially raising your bad cholesterol and lowering your good cholesterol, which is a double whammy. We know that heart attacks are the biggest, heart failure is the biggest problem in America in terms of what leads to fatalities, right? We know that we, at this point, know that they can get the trans fat out of the food. There is plenty of other options. In fact, the industry has already taken trans fats out. 78 to 85% of what they used to use is gone, okay, because of the earlier actions of Bloomberg and Obama and others.
And they might have seen the direction we were going.
Yes, right. And they're also worried about lawsuits as well, right? Because if you know it's dangerous, you know it has very little positive effect, and you keep using it for your bottom line, well, then you're going to have issues, right? So, and that's the upside of lawsuits, by the way. It keeps people healthy. So when I look at the totality of that, am I in favor of this regulation? Hell yes, I am. And so you need different tools and weapons for the different problems. So in the smoking fight, banning it would have been a bad idea. You would have had a black market as you do right now with marijuana and other drugs, right? But a marketing campaign was against smoking was a great idea. Labeling by the government, enforcing that, saying this will cause cancer. It is proven that will kill you. Putting that on the product. They hated that. They hated it over government over regulation, et cetera, right? That's how that talking point, part of how that talking point began in the first place, right? But in this case, look at the government. They're saving tremendous number of lives every year, year in, year out.
7,000 premature deaths each year. They think this will stop from happening.
Just this regulation, not heart attacks overall, okay? 7,000 people's lives will be saved. According to science, again, if you don't believe in science, we can't communicate anyway, right? Does that mean that science is so particular that they know 6,989 people are going to be saved? No, of course not. But do they have a range based on their estimates? Yes. Is that real? Yes, right? Saving 7,000 lives, that's more than twice of what happened on September 11th, the number of lives that were taken on September 11th. So this is what the government is good at. Yeah. So when I see this, and I see that we're getting rid of something that was hurting the American people, it's a little bit of hope, right? it's both hope that the government is not entirely corrupt, right? It's only 99 or 95% corrupted at this point. Sometimes you do get actions that actually help people. And they went up against the food industry. That's not an insignificant industry. There was
historically. I mean, I would say historically, of the industries that have been able to be bought out by industries, I mean, the executive agencies that have been bought out, the food industries have been very aggressive about purchasing the FDA and groups like that. I mean, there are some great documentaries on Netflix about the fight to get a daily recommended allowance of sugar put on your labels. You might notice that it's one of the only things on the label that doesn't have a recommended allowance, and that's because they spent like $10 million lobbying, and so they stopped it from happening. Yeah, and so to be able to win in this industry is amazing. I think that it's great that they're doing it. I've been doing a lot of reading recently, and I think the trans fats thing it seems fairly certain. I think that the overall demonization of fats in general was fairly off. I think that they were wrong with that for decades and decades. Science can be wrong, but it's science that discovers that science was wrong.
It's not like they looked it up in the Upanishads and they're like, oh, right. I don't know why we were wrong on fats. It turns out the Hindu ancient texts had this right all along. No, you do more science. That's the great thing about science. It corrects itself. Let me give a very inexact analogy here. So to me, if the government says, you know, look, a ton of people die from car accidents, which is absolutely true. I'm going to take away all cars. I go, no, I'm not. You lost me. That you've taken away too much of my freedom and my ability to choose whether I'm going to incur that risk by driving, right? But if the government says, hey, I need you to put your seatbelt on because I know that that's going to save tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of lives, right? And I'm not asking you to do too much. I'm asking you to put your seatbelt on. And yes, in this case, I do know better than you because it's proven by the facts. Okay. Then I go, okay, yeah, I can live with that, right? So there's a balancing act. You have to use your mind. We don't live in a black and white world, so I can't let you out of that. I know people want to relax and go, oh, well, it's a simple rule, right? I know I'm biased, but a lot of times it's conservatives that think that way, like simple rule. Me want simple
Flat
rule.
tax.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we can compromise. We don't ban the sodas. We just make them smaller.
And there's nothing wrong with that debate. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. We should have it. We should have it internally amongst us, among conservatives, liberals, libertarians, etc. But just be honest about the debate and honest about the facts. In this case, we are saving a ton of lives. We're not losing much at all in return, not even taste. So once you get the taste, then you're going to have issues with me. Okay, you're not losing your liberty. This is not the nanny state. This is a government that actually protects the citizens. So I think they've drawn it in the right place here. I think most reasonable people would agree. But when you get the people who are really loud yelling about how, oh, this is an infringement upon liberty, you might want to look at their advertisers. Because there might be some other things that they are taking into account when they give you that opinion.